Go.
What?
She's on!
Oh.
She's on!
One never knows.
We are so on top of the technology here.
Yeah, technology.
It's
Once
like,
again, I
hey,
always say it every week.
Yes, here we
Let's
are.
not hear it for technology.
So welcome to Quarantine Theater. So I'm glad you joined us again. We are excited about what we're going to be doing this year. It's going to be another this year. Did I say year? I did because I'm multitasking here.
We've done so many of these now. I counted them today.
How many? How many have we done?
Like 8 or something.
Oh no, it's more than that.
12. I think it was.
I think
12.
it is. Yeah.
It was like 12.
Yeah.
Maybe more. Yeah.
So if you were with us last week, we did Philemon, the Ovid classic story as adapted by Mary Zimmerman, and we liked it, so we're going to do 2 more today. As I think we mentioned last week, we're reading from the script for Metamorphosis as adapted by Mary Zimmerman and was presented with great success on Broadway a long time ago, but we both saw the production. It was exquisite. And so as we're reading, we're going to read some stage directions as well.
In a pool.
There's a big pool, and
literal
actors go into the pool and they put candelabras out in it, and they float little boats that have candles on it. It's really, really beautiful. So why don't we do this?
Okay.
All right. So, are we ready? Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Eros and Psyche by Ovid.
A raft covered in red fabric and bound with gold rope is placed in the water. The doors open and Eros enters. He is winged, naked, blindfolded, and carrying a golden arrow. Throughout the following, he will come forward and lie down to sleep on the raft in the water.
Who is this?
This is Eros, god of love,
Why does he have wings?
so he can move quickly from body to body
Why is he naked?
to make us transparent.
To make us what?
Transparent in our love, foolish to others, exposed.
Why is he blind?
He's always pictured blind, but he really isn't.
Because love is so ignorant and so impulsive?
There's that.
Well, what else?
He's blind to show how he takes away our ordinary vision, our mistaken vision that depends on the appearance of things.
Eros lies down on the raft to sleep, and throughout the following, Psyche enters carrying a candelabra. She makes her way down the stairs along the deck very slowly and quietly. Who's coming down the stairs?
Her name is Psyche.
Psyche? Her name is Psyche?
Yes.
What's she doing here?
She's married to the god, but she's never seen him.
Why is that?
He forbids it.
How did they meet?
Psyche was so beautiful, the goddess Aphrodite hated her. She sent her son to punish her, but he fell in love with her instead.
Does she know he's a god?
No, she suspects he is a monster.
Psyche is startled by something. She looks over her shoulder, then continues along the deck. Have they had sex already?
Oh, yes.
And how is that?
It was good.
Then why does she suspect he's a monster?
Her jealous sisters told her so.
Psyche is startled again, and then she continues. And she listened to them?
Unfortunately, yes.
Ah. So now she's coming to see him as he sleeps.
Yes.
To make certain.
Yes.
With her eyes.
Yes, she's very young. It happens all the time.
She doesn't trust what she just felt herself?
With the radical trust we need.
Psyche steps into the pool. She moves slowly, so as not to make noise. She approaches the sleeping Eros and holds a candelabra over him, looking. This all happens in silence. What does the word psyche mean?
In Greek, it means the soul.
Wax from the candle falls on Eros. He wakes suddenly, and he turns abruptly towards Psyche. They stare at each other for a long moment. Then in one motion, she extinguishes the candelabra in the water, and she and Eros begin to separate under the following.
What's going to happen to her now?
What's going to happen to her now?
She's going to suffer.
And?
She's going to suffer.
And?
She's going to suffer.
What does she have to do?
She is given horrible and lonely tasks by Aphrodite.
Such as?
So sorting thousands of little seeds one from the other.
How did she manage this?
Some little insects helped her.
Oh, like in the fairy tales.
Like in all the fairy tales.
What else? Psyche sinks into the water.
She had to go down to the underworld and fetch various things.
Wasn't she afraid?
She was petrified, but she did it all the same.
Wasn't it hopeless?
It was hopeless, but she did it all the same.
What did love do in the meantime?
He healed his little wound. It hurt him so much when she looked at him like that. The wax from the candle fell on him and burnt him.
How does it end?
She finishes her tasks, and Zeus declares that's enough.
He overrides love's mother?
Yes.
Eros and Psyche look at each other. They begin to move toward each other.
And further, he gives Psyche a special potion, and she becomes immortal. Then he declares that their marriage will last forever.
Does it?
Of course.
So, it has a happy ending?
It has a very happy ending.
Eros and Psyche approach the raft and they sit on it together. Almost none of these stories have completely happy endings.
This is different.
Why is that? Psyche and Eros kiss and kiss again.
It's just inevitable. The soul wanders in the dark until it finds love. And so, wherever our love goes, there we find our soul.
It always happens?
If we're lucky, and if we let ourselves be blind.
Instead of watching out.
Instead of always watching out.
Psyche turns to the audience and says,
If you will indulge us, we have one more tale to tell. A coda, if you will.
Baucis and Philemon.
It happened that one night, Zeus, the Lord of the Heavens, and Hermes, his son, came down to earth to see what people were really like. They disguised themselves as two old beggars, stinking and poor, ragged and filthy. They knocked on 1,000 doors.
Hello, do you have any spare?
Get out of here! Get the hell out of here! I work hard for my money!
And 1,000 doors were slammed on them. A woman comes to the door.
Hello, we're tired. We live on the street and we...
I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. She slams the door shut. At last they came to a little hut on the outskirts of town.
Why bother knocking here? We've knocked on all houses of all kinds, the homes of people with plenty to spare. Whoever lives here, obviously, has nothing.
Well, let's give it a try. We've come all this way.
This is hopeless. Let's just go. Let's just go home.
And Baucis enters.
Poor strangers. Philemon, there are guests at our door.
Hello, we are strangers to these parts. We lost our way and...
Baucis, why are you standing?
Baucis, why are you standing there? We must bring our guests to the table. Do you know us? Of course.
You do?
Yes.
Then who are we?
Why, you are children of God. Come in. Come in.
At this point, the narrative divides among several members of the company. They enter and exit variously carrying illuminated candles and wooden bowls, which stand in for all the items they will mention. They hand these bowls to Baucis and Philemon, or place them in the water themselves. The scene is active. The entire surface of the water becomes the table, being set with illuminated candles.
The two immortals, satisfied that their disguises were not seen through, entered the house, bowing their heads to fit through the door.
No, don't sit on the floor. Sit on chairs as quality people do.
Philemon ran to get another chair.
And Baucis fetched 2 pieces of cloth to pad them so the strangers might rest easier.
She stirred the coals in a hearth and fanned the fire to cook them a meal.
Philemon set out the embroidered cloth they saved for feast days.
Baucis saw that one of the legs on the chair was short, so she propped it up with a shard of a pot.
Philemon set out a plate of olives, green ones and black, and a saucer of cherry plums.
And there was cabbage and roasted eggs.
For dessert, there were nuts, figs, dates, and plums.
And a basket of ripe apples.
Remember how apples smell.
At last, to show a bit of modest pride, they brought out a bit of honeycomb for sweetness.
Philemon poured wine from a bottle, but as he filled the glasses of the guests, he saw that the bottle remained full.
And then they knew.
Oh, mercy! Mercy!
She runs with her husband to kneel in front of the gods. Oh, you are divine. We have served you such a simple meal. Baucis, go, kill the goose.
Then Zeus says,
Let it live. We are gods, and we thank you. You've done enough, more than your nasty neighbors thought to do.
the original narrator of the scene enters with 3 other members of the company, all carrying bowls of candles. As she speaks, they come forward, kneel in the water, and set the bowls floating.
Suddenly, everything was changing. The poor little house, their simple cottage, was becoming grander and grander, a glittering marble columned temple. The straw reeds of the thatched roof metamorphosed into gold, and the gates with elaborate carvings sprang up as the ground gave way to marble paving stones. And Hermes said,
Old man, old woman, ask of us what you will. We shall grant whatever request you make of us.
Baucis and Philemon whispered to each other.
Having spent all our lives together, we ask that you allow us to die at the same moment.
I'd hate to see my wife's grave, or have her weep at mine.
The gods granted their wish. Arrived at a very old age together, the 2 stood at what had been their modest doorway, and now was a grandiose facade.
And Baucis noticed her husband was beginning to put forth leaves. And he saw that she too was producing leaves and bark, and they were turning into trees. They stood there, held each other, and called before the bark closed over their mouths. Farewell.
Walking down the street at night when you're all alone, you can still hear, stirring in the intermingled branches of the trees above, the ardent prayer of Baucis and Philemon. They whisper,
Let me die the moment my love dies. They whisper, Let me not outlive my own capacity to love.
They whisper,
Let me die still loving, so never die. End of play. So, there's a little classic storytelling. So thank you for joining us this week.
So many things have been based on those stories.
Yes.
We're still basing everything on those stories.
And it's fun to revisit them here at Quarantine Theatre. So I'm pushing Linda to write a new play for the next episode based on real events.
Oh, you don't want to know. They don't want to know.
And the punchline is, you will be reborn. So think about that. We hope to see. Some of you may know this story, but she's going to turn it into a play.
You will be reborn.
Yes. So enjoy this, share this, and send us ideas that you'd like us to do, or join us in performance yourself. Quarantine Theaters for everybody. And in the meantime, please be safe and be well.